everybody. Welcome to Media Dump, the show where we discuss all things pop culture, be it films, television, sometimes maybe other things. We'll get there. I am Manu.
And my name is Rebecca, and in this episode, we will be talking about the Star Wars sequel trilogy. It consists of three episodes. The first one, The Force Awakens, directed by J.J. Abrams, my favorite director, of course. The Last Jedi by Ryan Johnson, and Rise of Skywalker, also directed by J.J. Abrams. This trilogy follows the story of Rey and the resistance against the First Order, which rose after the fall of the Galactic Empire. Rey learns the ways of the Force under the tutelage of Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa, while also searching for her parents. And she confronts Kylo Ren, the son of Leia and Han Solo, who fell to the dark side. The trilogy starts with Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, and Adam Driver, and all Star Wars roles would be reprised, like Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, Peter Mayhew, and others. So this is probably going to be the first kind of like conversation that we have where we're not in agreement in a lot of things. So I think it will be really interesting to dive into this trilogy. What do you think?
So this is this is gonna be interesting. This is a long anticipated episode. Well, mostly by me, I think, because I was both really wanting this and also dreading it because of the topic that it is. So I'm going to approach this in a very like civil manner. So I'm gonna give my overall thoughts and then we'll get into more specific things. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So just to open up, before this series, I knew Star Wars. I liked it mostly because like familiarity, it's present everywhere. I mean, it's constantly there. And family things as well. And then 7 came out and I liked it a lot and it felt very fresh. And I know that's going to be a hot point. And then I was, those 2 years in between the 7 and 8, I was like just really into it, just in general, really excited. And then 8 came out. And the first time I watched it, I was like, hey, this was mostly good, but I had some issues with the pacing and a specific subplot, which we'll get to. And then over time, as I kept watching it and thinking about it and discussing it and writing about it even, I was like, wait, no, actually, this really works. Like, this is really solid. And so I kind of fell in love with it. And I fell in love with 7 and 8 as like a very strong companion pieces, in the sense that 7, and we'll get into this, but 7 is designed in a very very specific like commercial way, where like or at least it seems so, where like a lot of things are designed to be like, oh, who will it be, without any plans in mind. And then 8, I think, in my opinion, and I think this is pretty defensible, it retroactively makes 7 like better. Like if episode 8 never came out, what a sad world. 7 just I don't think I would like it very much anymore. I mean, it was just like I would like the aesthetic of it mostly. And so then episode 9, it went against a lot of my expectations, not just like plot wise, but also like in terms of like meaning, themes, emotions. In the sense that 7 and 8, I think, had a really solid, strong, mostly 8, a direction for the franchise that was fresh, but also really honored the previous 6 films and maybe even Clone Wars, although I've not watched all of that yet. And maybe even Mandalorian now. And so I felt like, okay, very, very clearly, this is going to like these places, And then I think mostly because of a lot of complaints online, mostly online, 9 just went really against that in a very like reactionary way. And I mean, I understand some people liking it, and I've even defended some people. I've even defended it when I see people making what I think are like unjust or claims about nine that I don't feel are fair, even though I kind of killed me in my excitement for everything. I
We
just really
discussed about this
I
in previous
like
episodes.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of I don't like nine. I think it's finely made. It's just really not what I wanted out of Star Wars, and I even forget sometimes that it actually exists. It's not even conscious. For me, the ending of eight works fine as an ending for the trilogy because emotionally it closes off everything. Sorry, I said trilogy. It's two films. It works well as an ending for the eighth film saga, I think. And so well, for those who obviously don't know, we write notes for episodes before we make them.
Yeah.
And Rebecca wrote most of the notes for this one. And that's actually pretty good because I want to let her guide the conversation. And hopefully, because yeah, we don't really agree. So hopefully someone will come out of this one liking at least one movie more than they did before. It might even
Yeah.
be episode 9. Who knows? Okay, so should we just? Well, actually, before we start, is there anything that I mentioned specifically that you have contentions with that maybe we can start with?
No, I mean, I really like hearing you talk about this movie because you get really passionate about it. So
Thank you.
it's really nice watching like hearing someone speak so passionately about something. So I really enjoy
Sure.
it. So yeah. Do you want me to start like saying like writing my notes, like reading my notes?
Sure. Go on.
So
Go on.
I just want to let you guys know I don't hate these movies. I don't think they ruined my childhood or anything at all. I just never really felt really connected to the characters, which is a shame because
Hmm.
it's the first woman that is leading Star Wars. It's the first people of color that
Hmm.
is person. Like Oscar Isaac and John Boyega are two people of color, and they are part of this movie. And one of them is Latin, which is awesome. And, and I feel really sad that I really cannot connect to these characters because they had a lot of potential, and I'm very sad about it. But I don't hate these movies. I really don't. I think there was a lot of potential there that was misused. But yeah, episode
Okay.
7. I remember I went to the theater and watched it. I was very excited because it was gonna be the first Star Wars movie I ever watched in theaters,
Hmm.
and I remember liking it. I know it's kind of like a rehash of A New Hope with new characters and new things, but
Hmm.
it's a really solid movie because it's based on something established previously. So I did like it. One of my favorite characters that I really wanted to know more was Finn. I thought he was very interesting because in previous movies, stormtroopers
Hmm.
were kind of like this like blank space that they just used to shoot at them.
Yeah.
I know Clone Wars kind of like changed that, but I haven't watched Clone Wars back there yet, and I haven't finished it, so please don't kill me. But I thought he brought like this really new, fresh perspective of what it was to be a stormtrooper, and I thought that was an interesting angle.
Hmm.
I also applaud that everybody in this movie had a character arc, which is more
Sure.
than I can say for episode 9, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
Or 6. Honestly.
Or 6, yes. Uh, and well, I like the idea that Han and Leia were together because, as we
Yeah.
mentioned in our original trilogy, they were kind of problematic. So for me, that was okay. Like I didn't hate it that they were basically divorced, but
Hmm.
it was like fine. And I liked the cliffhanger ending. I thought it was really really
Yeah.
cool. Those are the things I did like about this movie. What I didn't like was obviously we know from the movie structure that the trio in this movie was going to be Poe, Ray, and Finn. and they didn't even interact. Like they interacted separately. It was just Finn and Bo and Finn and Ray. They never really met until episode 8. And I thought that was like a little bit weird, especially since they were establishing them as the main trio of this trilogy.
Mhm.
The final battle when they were in the forest after Kylo Ren like kind of like mutilated Finn in the battle.
Yeah.
Uh, I thought it was gonna be Luke. I was like, yes, finally, my baby's here to save the day, and it was not. It was Rey. And I was like, okay, interested, but I was really expected to see Luke because he, like at this point in the story, Rey hadn't been trained at all. So I thought it made a lot more sense for Luke to show up. Even Mark Hamill himself said that he thought it was gonna be himself. But I'm not. I don't hate that it was Ray. I think it was really cool. I was just like disappointed it was not Luke. But one of the things that does like kind of bother me is what was the point of defeating like Kylo Ren in the first movie? I thought it was too soon.
Okay, so I can answer to all of this actually, because they are things that I like. So the other day I watched that interview where or a show where Mark Hamill said the same thing you said, where like he thought, oh, that's where I come in, and I thought, it's cute. I like Mark Hamill, and obviously, we'll get there, but I really like Luke. But I think for this story, like I think it would have been like a fan service moment that kind of ruined, that kind of just made the Rey's arc not make sense. Like her arc, look, here's the thing, and this is the big thing that I knew we were going to get to, so I'm glad we can kind of start with it. Like one of the central complaints regarding this whole thing, and I wondered if you had it too, and so now I kind of feel like you do, and I want to talk about it. Is that Rey like doesn't have like enough, quote unquote, enough training to be like powerful, or like, because she defeats like this weird guy, Kylo Ren. So you agree with that, right? You agree that she is like she it doesn't feel like she has enough training to do that.
Not in this movie. I think by the end of 8, I was like in this movie I was okay with it. By the end
And
of movie 8, I was like, but she is basically the same as we saw her in episode 7, kind of.
well, that's a different thing. I completely disagree with that. There's okay, but okay, no. So in this one, okay, I'm gonna say it because I know some people listening might think this. Like the Force is not a real thing. It's just a plot device. So, in the very first Star Wars, like keep in mind, Luke Skywalker had never flown a ship, and the first time he flies a ship, he destroys a Death Star, and that's just the Force. And in Rey, we are shown this on one of her first scenes. She's always been fighting, like, so it makes sense that she has some training, and the Force intervenes. Like, there's that moment where she says, "The Force," and then she turns to the camera and says, "The Force is a plot device, and it is giving me strength." No, she doesn't, but she might as well. Um, so it's always been a plot device, and that's a good thing. That's what plot devices
It's
are
a
for.
smart. It's actually a very smart plot device.
Yeah, because you can just make it do anything. Like it just, and it doesn't even like we are told both in this one and the next one. I don't remember much about 9, but mostly these first two, that like she's heard stories about Jedi, so it makes sense that even if she hasn't had practice, like the Force comes in and she goes like, okay, I remember this Jedi. I remember a story about how Jedi can control minds or something like that, or whatever, and she maybe deduces that she can use, like when she does a whole, you would remove these restraints and leave with the door open, um so that's for me. Look, I like Rey because she like characters, protagonists are always like reflections of like cultural anxieties of the times that films are made in, and she, along with Kylo Ren, are like really interesting like representations of like this the struggle that is depicted in these 3 films, well, 2 of them certainly, is that like the current generations, like these new guys, are like dealing with the mistakes of the boomers, basically, like the like
Yeah.
everyone before them messed up. And with Ray, it's like, oh, she looks up to them. I mean, she's living very much the consequences of their actions, and she still like looks up to some of them. And obviously it turns out not to be very good, like
Yeah.
very useful. Yeah, but yeah, so you said you don't have much of an issue with her like using the Force here. You said your issue is more with an 8, right?
Yeah.
Or what'd you say? Yeah.
Innate.
So yeah, so your biggest issue is why, like, what is the point of Kylo Ren being defeated like this early,
Very,
right?
very, yeah.
I think that's fine. I mean, like villains don't necessarily have to be like undefeatable, because and especially with this one, like, and like the next film opens up with him being like, oh, you were beaten by a girl with no train. Like, it's part of her, sorry, part of his character. Like, he's a wimp, he's just some weird emotionally unstable kid. So
Yeah.
I don't think, like, I understand if because it is very common that villains are like tough to beat, and so I understand if some people can be thrown off by it, like, oh, I thought he would win, like he's very strong, and especially because we know it's a trilogy.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessarily something like it's something prescriptive. Like, if it any story can take place, you just gotta make it make sense. And at least, I don't like 9, but to a degree it still makes sense. He gets defeated in the first one, and then the second one he gets like, the whole, that same thing makes his relationship with his master more like conflictive, more tense, and then that leads to him getting more power, and that power ultimately means nothing, because he gets he gets
He
killed and his
gets
mom
killed.
dies, in 9. So I mean, yeah, I don't love 9, but even if it was just 7 and 8, and even, I mean, no, actually, even if I do include 9, I don't think that's really like it's not a I guess I don't really see why it would be a problem for me. Like, I can see villains not necessarily being like that, because that's part of his story. He loses, and then we get to see what happens next. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's for me how it is, and I think it makes him more interesting. I like
Yeah.
when villains are mostly like, first of all, it makes him more dangerous that he's just some unstable kid, I think. um but also I think it makes him just more interesting, because it's like, yeah, I mean, you're also in his head a little, because you're like, oh, what, he lost, okay, but I mean, he's the son of one of the characters we like.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty intentional, and I mean, I don't think this is giving Abrams too much credit. I think it is intentional that he's not portrayed as some unbeatable like Superman, like, not, no pun intended.
Excuse
uh
me.
Sorry, that he's not portrayed, that was completely accidental, I'm sorry. I mean, I think it's intentional that he's not portrayed as this powerful lord. Damn.
Yeah, I think
So,
also
and
like
it's
while we
fine.
were talking, I realized I was kind of expecting him to be like Darth Vader, which is kind of like his whole like identity in this
Yeah,
movie. I was
yeah,
really expecting him to be like
yeah,
undefeatable
exactly.
Darth Vader, and maybe that's why I wasn't satisfied with it because I was kind of like I already have foreign expectations about him,
Hmm.
and maybe that's why it kind of pushed him to the edge because everybody expected him to be
Uh-huh.
as Darth Vader, and then he was defeated, and then he was like,
Yeah.
maybe I'm not good enough. Am I feeling sorry for Kylo Ren? Like maybe I am. We would never
I
know.
mean, it's exactly what you said. I mean, he's not this big, like, powerful lord, and
Yeah.
that's something that is, and like, that's his character. He also, like, when Star Wars fans feel that frustration because, like, no, he trained 20 years, he should beat her. That's also what's in his mind, and that's very important, because I mean, not in 9 probably, but in the first two,
But in the first two
certainly.
movies, yeah.
Yeah, the first two certainly feel very like meta narrative. What's the adjective? uh Meta, I don't know, narratorial. I think that's not a correct word in English. They are very meta in the sense that they are making a comment, not just making a story, but also making a story that kind of deals with what Star Wars means to the world, and that is much more present in 8, which is why one of the reasons why I really like it. But I think there's a little bit of that here, whether or not it's intentional. Because again, I'm not sure how much credit to give Abrams, but I'm willing to see maybe. Sorry, the writer is Lawrence Kasdan, right? He's the writer.
I think so, yeah.
I'm willing to give him, I think, more credit.
More credit than J.J.
Than I
Abrams.
give Abrams. Yeah, and that's not
Me
like a
too. I
backhanded.
really don't like him. I really don't like most of his
Yeah,
stuff.
I know you're not gonna defend him here. I'm just clarifying.
I do like Ryan Johnson. I think he's a great director.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
Yeah, me too, absolutely.
and I love Knives Out. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was a
I love
really
it
good
too.
movie.
And yeah, so I think I don't think in 7 we have much of a disagreement. Like the thing is, I really, and this is in retrospect, I wanted sequels. Like all Star Wars fans always want more. We are programmed to want more. Um, but I think even in retrospect, like now watching the first 6, I feel like there is a need for a continuation because I mean, those first 2 are about legacy, you know, they are about lessons being passed on from one generation to the next. And a lot of characters don't learn, right? We talked about that in the original trilogy where like
Yeah.
Yoda and Obi-Wan are still very morally ambiguous. And I mean, they learned nothing, you know, it was primarily their fault, primarily Yoda's fault. And that's a hot take, but also a fact that Anakin was what's the word, was corrupted by the dark
By
side,
the dark side.
and then he's just perfectly fine with lying to Luke, telling him to kill his father.
That was very mean. That was very mean.
That, yeah, they should put that on the poster. Very mean. Yeah, so that's why I feel like this one was necessary, because I think we need to see how that progresses. We're like, okay, are these characters learning from the mistakes of the people like the previous generation? Some of them might be. Um, and that's why, you know, we're talking about Luke, sorry, Ben and sorry, I don't want to mess up names. Obi-Wan and Yoda, and then Luke is very similar here to both of them in many interesting ways, but we'll get there.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, 7 kind of a weird one because because a lot, like I said, like a lot of what I like about it is mostly like retroactive after watching 8, or probably not intentional. Very controversial opinion. I know that for most people have a really strong attachment to him.
To Luke, yeah.
But for me, even if they had done, even if for my money, even if they had changed him, it would still be good. But what's cool is that he actually is pretty consistent. Like because
yeah, we talked
and I mean,
about
I don't know. Do you have like any specific point? Like, do you agree that he's a consistent character?
Yeah, we talked in the previous one
like
about his anger
the previous one, right?
issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of like
yeah, because he's very like
impulsive.
Yeah, because what I always find very weird. Yeah, exactly, impulsive. What I find very weird is when Star Wars fans, like, first of all, they say that he killed his grandson or tried to kill him, and that's very weird because there are 3 flashbacks in this one, and they are specifically using the flashback that is told by like the evil space fascist, which is weird. Just Star Wars fans casually siding with the white fascist, and they don't really mention that what we are very clearly communicated that as the real story was that he got there, he kind of sent, and they say that it was because of a bad dream, when very clearly he says that he's kind of saw the future, which remember when Luke says, when Yoda says, it's the future you're seeing, and that in the future, the past, you know, all that. That was a terrible impression. Sorry, I can do better. I'm just talking too much right now.
In 5.
Past. So I mean, we know that he can see the future because we have seen it in episode 5. Remember that one? I thought everyone liked it. And we know that he is impulsive because remember when he left his training in episode 5, even though 2 of his masters were telling him like, hey,
don't,
you have to stay. And then remember, like, this is the worst one, when people are baffled by him thinking, being tempted to kill him.
He tried to kill Darth Vader
For like
too.
yeah, exactly. Like for 1 second he turns on the lightsaber and then he immediately regrets it, and everyone hates it. But when in Return of the Jedi, like again, Darth Vader is teasing him, say like threatening Leia, he loses it, and very
He
literally,
chops off his arm.
very evidently, yes, he is like seconds away from murdering him. And you know what? I think that's awesome. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Like
uh,
that's very interesting.
because we go back to the thing that we like, that it's our choices that makes us a
Yeah,
hero, and in that moment choosing not to do it was what made him a hero. So I
yeah,
don't really see why they say it's inconsistent, because he did the same thing at 6. uh,
exactly.
and so that's not what bothers me. What really bothers me is that he's no longer hopeful. But as you said,
Hmm.
it hit too close to home. I really admired him, and I really felt like him, like at some points in my life. So maybe that's why it bothers me, because I expected him
Yeah,
to kind of be always hopeful and optimistic, because we rarely see
yeah.
those
So
characters. But yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I came here to have fun, and now I've been attacked by
yeah.
my
What the
by my
reason?
own co-host.
I'm sorry. But like I think that's very good. Like not attacking you. What I mean is that
No, no, no. I
what I think
know.
is very good. Yeah, I know. What I think is very good is that, I mean, it's a very like uh non-intellectual thing to say what I'm gonna say, but like, you cannot, like, even happy people aren't, like hopeful people aren't always hopeful. They got their
Yeah,
moments where
exactly.
they get down, and I feel like that's why this is important. Like this is just the like he falls deeper than ever before, and he still manages to like pull himself out,
Yeah.
and he does it. And what I think is beautiful, I mean, if he had just, it's not just that he comes back, but the way in which he does it, that he kind of excuse me, because this film is about how he is kind of resented both with the Jedi, like as an institution, and with himself.
Yeah.
Like because he was like the implicit thing is that he was honoring the Jedi code, when he considered killing Ben Solo. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
he's impulsive, but he was also doing, like, remember when Mace Windu says he's too dangerous to be left alive? Like, he's
Exactly.
just following the
Yeah.
rules. And so he kind of that the failure, he sees himself and the Jedi as failure. And so then it is through this story that he realizes that maybe they failed, yeah, but that doesn't mean that they can't come back, like
Stronger than
reborn,
a 90 strength.
exactly.
Oh.
And like at the very end, he comes back and like he saves a rebellion, for starters. He does it without like any form of violence, which is the most like Jedi thing ever
Thing.
that no
Yeah.
Jedi has done before.
I actually really
He
like that scene. It's cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's for me, it's therapy, that scene. He all This is also important. He dies in the same way as Ben Kenobi and Yoda. Like, he dies just peacefully. um
Yeah.
and I mean, no, that the cinematography and the score when he dies is beautiful. I almost said the F word to before the beautiful, just because I like it so much. But yeah, no, I mean, he it's when he comes back at the end, it's like a rebirth of the legend of Luke, and
Yeah.
but also of the legend of the myth of the Jedi. And the whole movie is about, like, it is about a lot of things, but it is partially about like the importance of like these mythic symbols in inspiring people. And that's at the end, that's the relevance of what he does, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, if he had just gone there physically and slaughtered Kylo Ren, or
No,
been slaughtered by Kylo Ren, honestly, I guess someone could have made it work, but that doesn't sound very interesting to me.
and it doesn't sound
um,
very Luke.
It does, yeah, and it just sounds very like a downer ending, and not in a fun way, but like, oh god, like stop beating me, I'm down. Like the actual ending we have, for my money at least, is very uplifting, because the ending is okay. The resistance, like, yeah, there is still a first order, but the resistance survived, and there is like a new myth, and that will continue to inspire generations to keep fighting, and that's the meaning at the end with the broom kid. um like, as long as there is, like, there are these stories about heroes, there will be people who
Who will
want to
inspire?
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, that just, for me, I think that's just, I understand if you feel kind of like, I mean, he was one of your favorite characters, I like one. Ben Solo is one of my favorite characters, and
And he was slaughtered
even
in
though
episode 9.
I understand what they did with him in 9, I just can't like it, can't bring myself to like it. So if you feel that way toward Luke, sorry, I guess I can understand that. Even though I really like him, like it myself.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, hopefully, and you know what? I'm gonna say it too. I think this is the scene with Yoda in here is the only time and I may have said this before. I think this is the only time he is ever wise in this whole series in any way.
Okay.
Because every time before this, and I'm not saying it's the only good scene he has. I love every scene he has before, especially in 5. But it is the only time he gives actually good advice. It looks like Yoda himself had a character arc off screen where he was like, and he realized that
I was
he
wrong.
kind of, yeah, like he kind of destroyed the Jedi, and almost like like God Luke maybe corrupted him, maybe, I don't know, who knows what would have happened, but he was wrong. Now he also, everyone gets redeemed except for Ben Solo. Although I do think the I think episode 8 does give like a segue. Like, I think it ends in such a way that he kind of has to be redeemed, or the story doesn't make sense. Well, actually,
Well,
ultimately,
well.
ultimately. Okay, so yeah, that was a section on Luke. I feel like this is gonna be like we agree to disagree thing. So, is there any other like big contention you have with that one?
No, not with Luke.
With 8, yeah. Sorry,
Yeah, with a.
okay, yeah. By the
I
way,
think.
actually, before we move
Oh,
on,
sorry.
before we
Yeah.
move on, real quick, Mark Hamill, I honestly disagree with him a lot on a lot of things, like him as a celebrity. I don't
I
think
love
he,
him.
I think he's very charming, and I think he tells stories like in a very fun way. He's very charismatic, but
Yeah.
every time, and I mean every time, he gives some kind of opinion on where a story where he believes a story should go. I'm just like, man, I'm glad you're staying acting, because that writing doesn't sound very well. Like, I found this out like a couple months ago. Did you know that when episode 6 was being produced, he passed around and he pitched to George Lucas the idea of the movie being about Luke turning bad. Like, he kind of saw that that was the next step.
Dude,
um
no, I didn't know that.
and so I'm like, okay, because nowadays you see a lot of people saying that, like, well, actually, Mark Hamill doesn't like this, which is also, like, I mean, he has gone back on that, but even if he hadn't, like, they say, look, Mark Hamill doesn't like this, which means that it's bad because he plays Luke. And I'm like, well, he also didn't really agree with the direction in 6. So is his arc in episode 6 bad too? Or is that
I
like,
can't believe it.
it's very weird, right? Because I mean, that's why I kind of don't really take him seriously. I just, he's very strange. And, the Star Wars fandom is full of problems. And I do think Mark Hamill sometimes contributes to those problems, but that's a different conversation. Um, And yeah, no, but actually, that was just a preamble. He gives the best performance of his career in this one, and I honestly think this is a big one. I think it was Oscar worthy.
Oh
I
my
don't know if they.
god.
I don't know. It was the best. Here's the thing. It was the best performance in all of Star Wars, and we already had an Oscar nominee in a previous Star Wars. So by definition, if it was the best, and then it was better than that, then it was probably Oscar worthy. And when it comes, I'm not saying that he should have been nominated, because I think the actors that year were probably did better performances, but I think he wasn't the caliber of that. Um, yeah, that might be the most No, actually, you know what? I think most people agree that he gave a good performance. Honestly, I don't think that's too contentious. I don't think you agree based on your reaction, but that's fine. I will sleep peacefully at night anyway. I think he does give a great performance. um, so yeah, yeah. I feel like I left you speechless after that.
Yeah, very. I'm like, no. What should I mention? Well,
You
I
want to talk about
didn't
Finn?
like. Oh, I want to talk about them. I think
All
his
right,
arc was exactly the same as in the first movie.
I disagree. And then what?
Because he in the first movie he was like kind of afraid of the first order and
Yeah.
like he wanted to run away. Um, and in the end, he decided to stay with the rebellion until he was like kind of like well, semi nearly killed by Kylo Ren.
Hmm.
And when he wakes up, the first thing he want to do is like run away after he had already decided that he wanted to stay and do something for the war. So it was kind of like a character regression, and uh, he kind of like how to say, like he was running away. He was discovered by Kelly Marie
Hmm.
trans character. What's her name? Rose.
Rose.
Rose was her name. Uh, and I don't know. I really didn't like what they did with Finn in this one. I think he was just basically re-exploring his previous arc of running
Okay.
away and finding something to fight for.
Okay. Okay. Can I? I feel like I can turn your mind on this. I feel like I can do it. I think I'm up to it. Okay. So here's the thing, and this is something that I understand because at first I kind of agreed with you. Well, partially. I didn't really like his side of the story. Um, in episode 7, like if you notice, at the very end, he is with the rebellion, right?
Yeah.
That is true. But keep in mind, when he goes to Starkiller, he doesn't even have a plan. The only reason he goes is, and you remember this one, right? What does he go?
Ray.
Yeah, exactly. He goes to save his only friend, basically. I mean, not. I was gonna say Poe, but that's his lover, so that's not really his friend. So,
Another missed
no,
opportunity.
sorry.
Another missed opportunity.
No, I know, absolutely. And you know what? They're gonna do it again with Falcon and Bucky, aren't they? No, but okay.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So sorry. He wants to save his only friend, like his first friend. He is not doing that because of the rebellion. Because if you remember, like what was the last thing? Like the only reason he's there is because he was like he saw that Rey was kidnapped, and the rebellion was there, and that's his way of saving her, right? Like that's his only path. And
Yeah.
prior to that, remember the last time we saw him was him saying goodbye to Rey. He was like, "I have to hide. I'm going. I'm leaving," and that was it.
That's
And
true.
so his arc in 8 is not really about like no longer being a coward. Like his arc is he the what's the word, deserts from the First Order,
Yeah.
um and he finds a friend, and he goes back. Like his arc is about
The
going back to
power of
confront
friendship.
the First Order. Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's discovering that, because that's what he's afraid of confronting the First Order, and he goes back to it. um but it is ultimately just to save her. And what's cool is that this one, like it literally starts with that. Like again, like he's just like, you know what, we have to run away. And that's, I mean, it's not a regression because he never had that growth. He went there just to save Rey. And so that's what he still wants. Like the first thing, keep in mind that he asks, that he's the first line he has in 8, if I'm not mistaken. Although I've not seen it in like 2 hours, so yeah, it's been a while. He tells Poe, where's Rey?
Where's Ray?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's like, and so in this one, this is the one where he actually does have the arc that you described, where like he finds something worth fighting for. He realizes that, and this is why the character of Bo Katan DJ is very important, even though I didn't think so the first time I saw it. That, I mean, he can't just remain neutral in this war, because if he remains neutral, he's kind of just supporting it. He's ultimately supporting it,
Yeah.
like the First Order, and so that he realizes there's something to fight for, and you get that wonderful moment where payoff where he's like, "Yeah, rebels come." My man, that's a good line. And then, like the first time I saw it, that was very cringy, like very powerful cringe. but every time when I watch it recently, it gives me chills. Honestly, it's just really good. And then we get to, this is what's really cool, because the structure of 8 is very strange, because it has like 5 acts. And what's cool is that throughout that last act, you get to see some of these characters having grown. And Finn, you see him in that he's not trying to escape. He's saying that, come on, we got to fight these guys until we get help. And
Yeah.
there's a moment where there's, Rose is looking at him very proud, like, oh, like he's grown. And then she turns to the camera and she's like, character development. I mean, she might as well. um, and yeah, that's why I really like him. Because, and actually, what I said about that final act being like the place where we see the characters have grown, that applies to everyone. Like, that's also true of Poe and of Rey to a degree, and obviously of Luke. So
And Luke
yeah,
Skywalker.
but as far as okay, okay, yeah, let me just finish with Finn, because I remembered something. um yeah, so I think it's really good. I think it's the heart of it, because one part of the movie is about, what we said with Luke and symbols, how they inspire people. Rey is inspired by the legend of the Jedi, and then she helps bring Luke back to give rebirth to that myth.
Yeah.
And the other side is Finn, which is okay, and this is how people find something like a cause worth fighting for. So you got those two sides, and they kind of complement each other. It's the idea of, as long as there is this conflict, and there are these myths, like mythical heroes and stories, there will always be like people like this, who stand up, are inspired, and want to fight, for freedom, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's why I think his arc really works. And I am also going to say the scene in Canto Bight is great and completely useful and very, very important. It is more important than about half of episode 6. And I'm going to say half episode 5 too. I'm going to go with that.
I think you did convince me about Finn's arc, because you're right. He wasn't really very involved in the rebellion in the seventh movie, so I guess you're right. This movie was the one that gave
I
him
think
kind of like something to fight for. Though I still think it was
I
very
think and
awkward, the kiss between him and Rose. That was very awkward. We could have been
no,
safe.
yeah, that's true. That's true, but I think that's also true of every romance in Star Wars. It's never been their strength. Um,
No.
and
I
just
mean, I
so
do like Anakin and
that's
Padme to a certain degree, but some of their dialogue is kind of like clunky.
in a way,
Yeah, but I did like their
yeah,
romance.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like this is gonna be like, I feel like the reason why Finn doesn't, like, the reason I feel like Ab no more Abrams hate. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go there. I'm sorry. No, but yeah, I think it works here. I think in the seventh film, it was a very like, just, you know generic arc, thing, like, is afraid of the First Order, confronts the First Order, done. And this is when they actually make him like a hero, and then the next one is when they completely forget about him.
Yeah, and he was
Sadly.
worth nothing in the movie.
But yeah, I mean, also, before I forget, because while I was talking about Finn, I remembered, and I wanted to hear your take on this one. What do you think of the scene between Luke and Leia?
I think it was sweet.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I love it, honestly. It's really
Like, I
beautiful.
don't have an issue with that. People have issue with that scene.
I'm not sure, honestly. I just really I just wanted to know what you thought of it
I liked it. I
because
think
I
it,
yeah
yeah, it kind of like reminded me a lot of their conversation like
in six, right?
in episode 6. So I
Yeah,
like that callback. Yeah, I liked it.
yeah, yeah. It's really solid. It's very touching. I mean, I feel like that, and it's very good for like build up of that whole moment where he walks out. You know that moment, which I guarantee you in about 20 years when most of the people who hate this film kind of don't really talk much about it, everyone will agree that that's like an iconic moment of film,
Yeah.
that moment where he walks out. um yeah, it's really really good. How do you feel about, wait, let me check your notes real fast because just to make sure if we're not missing anything important. Hang on. Wait, I hate this. I hate. Okay, here it is. So you said, okay, so I'm reading here that you say Leia flying around like she was Mary Poppins. That's true, and it is a good thing.
It was very. I remember being in the theater and I was like, "What is going on here?"
That's fine. Yeah.
But like I styled it like it looked good, but I thought it was very random.
Yeah, you know what? I think it can be funny. I'm too invested in the moment to laugh at it, but I don't think like you're fine with it. Like you think it came out of nowhere, but like it makes sense, right? Because the force it sometimes comes
Yeah,
in
as we
unexpected.
talked about it, it's a plot
Yeah,
device.
yeah,
Feel free
and
to
you
do
know,
whatever you want.
and look, if your opinion on anything in Star Wars is that it's silly or dumb, yeah, you're right,
Then
obviously.
you're on the right track.
Yeah, and ironically enough, I don't. A lot of the fandom doesn't agree with that. I don't know why they don't like. I mean, I love admitting that the things I like are completely silly. I think it's great.
We talked about it, the
I also,
superhero and Star
yeah,
Wars and
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's what are you gonna like? Some boring, I don't know.
yeah.
Come on, have fun. Um, uh, then you wrote down that you like the idea of Ray parents or no, especially on Cortez Snoke. So I still can't believe he was killed off. When you say that you can't believe that Snoke was killed off, I'm sorry. When you write that, are you saying that like do you have it like are you shocked? Are you just shocked by it, or do you have like an issue with it?
No, I was shocked because I thought he was gonna be like the Palpatine of the entire trilogy, and he
Yeah.
was not. We were there was an actual Palpatine behind it. He
Oh
was
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
so
Isn't
I
there
was kind of
always?
like surprised by that
Yeah.
because I was like, wow, I thought he was gonna be the big bad, the biggest
Hmm.
big bad of the entire trilogy, and I was
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
yeah.
Um. So yeah, I think I was shocked too, obviously. Um. But I also think it was awesome that he died. And how he died is great. Like that scene, I go back to it very often. It's really solid.
Then
Like it's very
it would have
tense.
been.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Then I think like the biggest big bad was gonna be Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Like after they killed him off, but we were mistaken.
Yeah, I feel like that. Like the point is, Snoke is not an interesting character. He's just interesting in his relationship with Kylo Ren, and so if you kill him, that's you get the only interesting character, you know. And that's, I mean, they set it up. The very first scene Snoke has in here is him saying,
The girl.
he says the exact word. No, yeah, yeah, but he also says something like, um, ah, I knew this line like backwards. It was something like, you wonder why I keep such a rabid dog on a leash or something like that. He's something like, because I don't know, anger properly manipulated can be a sharp tool, and it's like, yeah, he's talking about Snow. Sorry, about Hux, but he's also talking about Ben Solo. Like we get it,
Yeah.
and so that there's the setup. I mean, obviously he was in retrospect, obviously he was gonna kill him. Like that's it's almost painfully obvious rewatching it sometimes. But yeah, I like him a lot. I like his really dumb um outfit a lot. I don't know if
Yeah.
ironically or seriously, but I really like it. He's like wearing a robe. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's great. I always hoped that he would be like a small character. I thought he was gonna be like Yoda size before episode 8 came out, and that he was just like compensating. I think that would have been fun. Hopefully, one day we'll get like a tiny
That
villain in
kind
Star
of
Wars.
take.
Yeah. Um, and okay, so that looks like most of your notes for 8. I mean, the next two notes you have,
Yeah.
I think we already addressed
Like
them.
in retrospective, I didn't have that much issues with it. Like now thinking
Yeah, no,
about
I
it.
think you're. I think it's just. I think it's the same as with Justice League, right? That the big issue you have is too big to like.
Yeah, to enjoy it.
And
Yeah.
it's true for me too with Justice League. Yeah, that's it's too big to see the other, like the good things.
Yeah.
The things you might like.
My
Which
Justice League
I
is
understand
the
that. I can
Smallville
see
episode. That's always gonna be my Justice League
that.
until they make a good Justice
Yeah.
League movie.
Until then, so well, so you'll change. So it'll change in like 50 years probably
Oh
if we're lucky.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I also really like just a few things before we move on to 9, because
yeah.
I that
Sure.
one's gonna be very, very unanimous, I think.
Yeah,
Um, I really like I really like the scene where R2D2 like convinces, persuades Luke of going back. I think that's
yes.
very
Stand that friendship.
yeah. That's a beautiful scene, honestly. I really like the way that movie is structured, in the sense that it's like 2 hours 20 minutes long, and at about 1 hour and 20, like it gets on and it just doesn't stop. Like from the scene with Yoda, it just keeps moving and it just keeps
Yeah, very
building
fast.
up, building up, building up, building up, and it does not let you go until Luke's death.
Yeah,
So I think that it's very well handled, because structurally it is weird. I think in the theater I thought the movie would end when they were in the throne scene, like a little bit after that.
oh
Um,
yeah,
so and that's only like an hour and 40 into it. So that's I think it's wonderful how it works, because everything lines up in that climax. And of course, the way everything like comes together in a very organic manner, like the fight in the throne room, and then the fire on that cruiser, and the whole like what's the word? What's the way they call it? The tactic, the hold
the
maneuver, yeah.
whole. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's beautiful. Obviously, the soundtrack is great. Like that's no one's gonna disagree with that, I don't think.
no,
I really like Poe. He's very similar. I mean, he also has an arc. I think that's also a very contentious arc with a lot of fans. I think it really works. And I think he becomes a very mature person and a good leader at the end. And I like that we see it, that he realizes that the attack on the first order on the ground is not working, and he's like, you know what, we have to retreat or we're all gonna die.
yeah,
Very simple character beats. It works. It's very good. And I like Ray. Like you said here that you like that her parents were nobodies. I
yeah.
absolutely agree, and I wish they kept that,
It was
because
very
I think it was very
interesting
yeah
because everything was related to the
yeah.
Skywalkers before, and having like kid out of nowhere sounded
Hmm.
interesting, and it really shook up like the mythology until it didn't. Yeah,
No, and what's also cool about it is that that is like the story of Ray in 7 is like, okay, she's too attached to this place, the memory of this place, that she doesn't allow herself to just move on,
yeah,
like she doesn't allow herself to really be anyone other than the girl in Jakku. And then this one is all the second one is all about how she thinks that she will just find her path, by following someone.
yeah,
At first it's with Luke, and then it's with Kylo Ren, and then the moment that Kylo Ren actually offers her a path, that's when she makes the decision that no, I mean, she has to carve her own path. And
yeah,
that's why I one of the reasons why I really like the scene with the infinite race, because it's very obvious, but like, yeah, it's all about her. Like, it does, like, where she comes from doesn't really matter. What matters is who she is. And that's
And who
ultimately,
she can become.
yeah, exactly. And that's ultimately why she doesn't follow Kylo Ren, because of who she is intrinsically, that she doesn't need to follow anyone. And yeah, she's just a really interesting character. I really like that in this movie both her and Ben Solo are like rebel against their boomer master teachers. I think that's really cool. Like it's just really really good stuff. um so yeah, I like, by the way, all of their scenes with the force t- uh what do they call it, the force Skype thing, where they
I
talk
don't
across the
know.
galaxy.
I always said like when they're communicating through the force. That's all I call
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I think that all of those scenes are great, and I really do buy that. Maybe not the
Not
romance,
the
although
romance, but the
it's
connection
I
is
could understand it
interesting.
because it is in
Yeah.
fantasy. Yeah. And I mean, he is a an evil space wizard, so that I might understand the romance aspect there. Um, no, but I think, and also this is gonna be hot take too. I really like Rose. I think she is as good of a mentor in this one as Yoda was in like episode 5. I would say even better, honestly. Like for different characters, right? But I think she is. I think she is the real Yoda here. Like she is the wise character that someone else is supposed to learn from and whatnot. And I like her, and I hate the way they treated her in the next one. I really, really hate it. I think it's disgusting,
Yeah.
completely disgusting. Okay, so
Episode
speaking of disgusting,
9.
let's talk about episode 9.
The episode
Yeah, okay, so do you want to
responsible
start? Because I already
for
gave my thing.
this is the episode responsible
Yeah,
for me losing
mine
my
too, mine too,
Star
mine too.
Wars hype. Like until I found out the
Me too,
Obi-Wan
yeah.
series because Hayden Christensen is back.
Yeah, that's it. That's exciting. I
I
mean, it
love
sounds like,
him.
normally I don't really like this. I normally I don't really like oh, fan service thing, but in this case I like it because um I think he was a good actor and he just didn't really get a good
A good
opportunity, and this
script,
might be a chance for
yeah.
him to shine again.
I
Yeah,
love
this might
him.
be
He
a chance
deserves
for him
love.
to. I think he also deserves love. Yeah, and I for a moment, like, I'm not like a super loud voice in the Star Wars fandom, obviously, but I did contribute to the discourse about him, where I was like, oh, he's so whiny. Like, shut up, young me. Shut up. Stop talking. You don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, that's exciting. But anyway, speaking of things that we regret, I think it killed my hype too, and not just in Star Wars,
In
about
general.
everything.
The movie
Yeah,
was basically
I
like
hadn't
let's
felt. Yeah,
let's undo the Last Jedi, and I'm like,
yeah,
why? Like it's already canon, like accepted, like do something with it.
yeah,
And I think a lot of it had to do that there was
yeah,
no
exactly.
planning. There was no planning in this trilogy at all. So kind of like
Well, that that's true. But there also wasn't in the original. In that, well, I mean, I don't like 6, but technically it worked. I
yeah,
think.
it did work.
And I mean, there also wasn't. There wasn't. There also wasn't. Like 8 wasn't planned, and I mean that was the best movie ever made. No, I don't believe that. I'm just kidding. But that worked. That was fine. You don't have to, like it. It's not like for me. I think the problem is not that it wasn't planned. The problem is just that the way that it was ultimately designed, which was very clear for me. It seems very clear that it was designed as a like an apology to people, not people like you who kind of don't love episode 8, but people who hate it, people who felt like it was like a betrayal of everything Star Wars, like an
Yeah,
insult or something, whatever. Because I mean, Rose is what, like, has like 3 minutes
three
of screen
seconds,
tops.
and she had like one
Yeah,
line or two.
yeah, and the lines she has aren't great, to be honest, if I remember them correctly. And then also, like, no one grows.
No.
That sounds really harsh, but no one grows. I mean, you could argue Ben Solo, but I don't like when they
No.
people grow just die. um, and then Luke here is boring, looks
Yeah.
bad,
I didn't remember he was in this
has
movie.
very awkward moments. Do you remember now, or should I refresh your memory
No,
of what happens?
I did remember now that you mentioned it, but I was like, I didn't
Okay,
remember
okay.
until you mentioned it. I was like, wow, that's true. It
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
here.
yeah. And yeah, and the thing is that the Star Wars fans, and I'm sorry, this is not. Look, everyone listening, we are Star Wars fans too.
Yeah.
We are a part of the fandom. So clearly what I am about to say does not apply to us. And so if you are not in this, you can just say that you're not in it, and that's fine. You can, but it is a thing that exists. Like the Star Wars fandom is filled with people that are like racist and sexist and all that, and they don't like when these movies are diverse, and so they're very loud, and the loud voices are very easily heard, sometimes even by some actors in these movies, and sometimes validated by them, which is unfortunate. And I think this movie kind of did that. I think it validated a lot of those dumb problems with episode 8, and also a little bit episode 7, but mostly 8. Yeah. I mean, it was fun, I guess. Like I watched it in the theater and it was fun. I watched it with friends, but
I like Hayden
not much.
Christensen
And I was
cameo.
excited. Yeah,
He was just
like
there. He was like, use the force. And I was
like
like,
the
that's
thing is,
Hayden Christensen. I
I feel
love
like
you.
it is so. This is just. I hate
It's
this movie
very
so much.
bad.
No, I don't hate it. I really don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest with you. The moment where Ben Solo, where he is Ben Solo, like he arrives and he's like to save the day. I honestly, I don't think I have been that excited as since like Endgame, and I just that was just too much. Like in the theater, I was very excited, and I felt like with that, if they had gone there, that would have worked fine. Like, I would have been okay with most of the other things if that had been fine. Sorry, if that had worked. If he had lived, because I feel like him dying is like the big problem, honestly. Um, I'm not sure if you agree with that. If you think he should have, if you think it was fine that he died, and also he didn't talk at the end, which was very very dumb. I really wanted to hear him talk like a normal person.
I didn't like that they killed him off either.
Neither.
But it was kind of like a parallel to what kind of that Darth Vader. I mean, I guess that's why they did it.
I know. Yeah, but it's bad because they are just repeat, like they are literally like when you do the whole repeating something, you repeat it as a initial status quo so that then the ending may be different, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but no, but now the ending was the same,
Yes.
literally the same as episode 6. So, the optimistic side, I guess, is that in like 25 years, someone could make sequels to this and actually do it right. I guess it's possible.
Manu
Although,
will be the one.
I was gonna say Zack
Manu will
Snyder.
be
Sorry,
there.
Adam Driver. Hope. Hey, hey. I'm gonna get those rights. I'm gonna get that.
Yeah.
No, I hope so.
Yeah,
But
me
it's not gonna be the same
too.
cast, which is unfortunate because I really like this cast.
This cast.
And I was invested in them, honestly. I know you weren't, and I can understand that. That like that's very personal. I was very invested, and yeah, 9 was kind of the like the first two films, 7 and 8, were about like how the mistakes made by the previous generations are like trapping the new
The
generations
generation,
and dooming
yeah,
their lives,
exactly.
and
Eh,
the ninth film is both like metaphorical, like both like story wise and production wise, like that generation ruining everything again. Like just undoing the little progress they had done. it's just
Yes,
insane. It's
it's
crazy,
crazy. It's
and
crazy.
it hurts a little. Okay, so yeah, for me the biggest thing is Ben Solo. The second biggest thing is the twist with Rey being a Palpatine.
Yeah, really
Um,
weird. He still, and still, him being alive kind of like defeats the purpose of Anakin being the chosen one and destroying it. Yeah,
uh-huh.
it was a weird choice. They should have just made Kylo Ren the biggest big bad. I mean, and he'd give him a redemption story at the very end, but they didn't. Instead, they chose to give it to someone who was already dead.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think as a concept, I don't think it's bad, because I think, like, if the setup for this whole like new trilogy is that history is repeating itself, I think it is very potentially very powerful and interesting if we literally say that, oh, it's literally the same bad guy behind it all. I think that could, as an idea, be interesting to explore. um, but I mean, it isn't explored. It's part of the issue. It just happens, and it isn't resolved, which is the other side of the issue.
Yeah.
Because we're just, it's like a nightmare. The movie ends, and the implication is that things will just keep happening in that, or in that sequence. Republic becomes an empire, becomes a republic, becomes an empire, becomes a
And then
republic, becomes an
again,
empire.
yeah,
Yeah, and the maybe not the
they
Skywalkers,
never
but like
learn.
noble Jedi will turn into bad guys, and then they will die, and then another one will turn to a bad guy, and they will die, and that's always going to be how it is, and we're all doomed, and there's no hope for anyone. Man, I
Yeah,
love
which
Star
is
Wars. I'm so
sad.
inspired. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, this is such a downer episode. I really
Yes.
maybe we should have discussed it 7, 9, 8 to finish on a relatively high note.
Yeah.
No, but and
But
also
also,
Mark Hamill gives a
not only
terrible
as a
performance here. I'm
story,
sorry.
not only
Go on.
doesn't it work as a story, it doesn't work as a movie either because it kind of like has a lot of plot twists that didn't work. Like
Real?
General Fox being a rebel, and like there was no sense of foreshadowing, and it was just played as a joke. There were a lot of
Or
kind of
meaning?
like uh, redundant things, like Chewie being kind of killed off, and then 1 second later it was
Oh yeah.
undone. And there were a lot of new characters that we didn't know and that they expected us to care in the last movie. It was very, very odd.
Yeah.
Very, very odd.
Yeah. And then what's also dumb is and I like Lando, by the way. I should say that. But it's very dumb that it's him who saves the day, because it's the same thing. Like you have to rely on the older generations to do it. The only they can do it right. You know,
Oh
only
yeah.
they can save the day. And it's very weird symbolically, and it also, yeah. I mean, that moment when the ships come in, it's exciting and everything, and everyone claps. But
Exactly.
it's also, it means nothing, and like you said, with Hux, it also means nothing. It's funny. I really like the way, like that little moment when he's like, "I'm the spy," and then Oscar Isaac's reaction feels is so good. Like
January.
he's just unbelievable. He says, "What? I knew it." That he's really good. I think he owns that scene. He almost saves the film single handedly.
Yeah.
That's an
Sad Oscar
exaggeration.
Isaac.
And and you know what? I mean, I have to be honest. When I watched the Star Wars Episode 7, I actually thought that Rey would be a Palpatine, and thought that would be a good idea, because I thought, more interesting than being than being the daughter of like a hero we know. It would be interesting if she's
Kenobi
the
or
daughter
something
of a
like
bad
that.
guy. Even though, like, yeah, even though we've already seen that with Luke, I thought it would be interesting. And I thought, hey, Palpatine would be nice. I mean, he's British, isn't it? Isn't he? And and I thought, well, she's British. And then I also realized a lot of how she moved. Like, this was back in like Episode 7 days. Like the way she swung her lightsaber was very reminiscent of how he does it, where he's almost like stabbing the other person. And the musical theme, and I more people who know more about music than me, I think, have done like a study on this, like works on it, like talked about it. But it always sounded very reminiscent. Like I feel like the first uh 6 notes are the same. Like the Emperor's theme is like ba 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 ba, and then Ray's theme is ba 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 ba. No, wait, what is her theme?
I don't know her
I don't know.
team.
The first 4 or 5 notes are very very similar or the same, and so that's why I was always like, oh, very interesting. And she also made like Palpatine made like there's that like iconic sound, right, when he
Yeah,
jumps out of his chair, and she also made a lot of that. And I understand that it's normal, but it's not so much in Star Wars. So um yeah, I mean, I called it, which
back
is
in the day.
validating for me, and now I yeah, it's kind of indicative that that the movie was more faithful to the expectations of my 15-year-old self than it was to the expectations of the 19-year-old self. That's it's a little too on the nose for me, I think. But yeah, that's did you have any predictions about who it would be?
I thought she was gonna be
The
a
daughter of Grievous, maybe.
Kenobi. I thought she was gonna
Kenobi, that was
be.
the other big one, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, and again, it would have been like, which was the episode when we talked about I think it was the Star Wars one, right, where it was like
yeah,
we mentioned Star Trek, the my name is Khan. Like, it would have been just so funny if she was like, my name is Ray Grievous, and then it means nothing, and then she
yeah.
raises her arms and two other arms come from her armpits or something, and it's yeah. It's crazy.
It's
I hate
crazy.
Star Wars so much.
We ended the
I'm
episode very
actually,
sad and broken hearted
yeah,
about
that was a
what
downer ending.
happened.
Yeah, no, but you know what? Here's the thing. Look, here's the thing. The positive thing, is that when people are disappointed by this, no, sorry, when people are disappointed by episode 8, they like harass, not you, like other people, a big part of the fan base, they harass actors and actresses, especially actresses. Kind of weird, right?
Yeah,
But when people are disillusioned with 9, they are mostly like nihilistic or pessimist. But what I've seen a lot is that, and this happened to me too, they like come up with their own hypothetical continuations of the story or alternative episode 9. um and I think that's good, because for me at least, it really helped me like realize what kind of things I like and the way I appreciate like storytelling. And I hate episode 9, but it did a little bit of good, I guess. um so it's part of growing up. Sometimes you're gonna be let down.
by the
um
film
and I
industry.
know that because I watched episode 8 and I learned. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's a thing, it's a big thing. um but yeah, anyway, down rating. Okay, so before we close, one positive thought you might want to say for to not end this like
very
hating
sad.
everything and everyone.
You changed my mind about some things, so I think that's positive. Some
Okay.
things that I didn't see before, and now I think they're good.
Hmm.
So it's cool. It's
Hmm.
cool to have a different perspective.
And I have to say that on the other hand, I now understand. Like, I've discussed this with a lot of people online, obviously, and it is always very impersonal.
Yeah,
But hearing you like express it, I think really has made me understand a lot of it. I wish more people were as like civil and understanding as you were. But yeah, I do think I have more appreciation for especially regarding the whole Luke arc thing.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I still like, for me, I still will watch 7 and 8 like very often. I really like those two. I think they are my favorite Star Wars. And again, 7
Films.
almost accidentally, yeah. Probably accidentally.
So yeah, that was our conversation about the sequel trilogy. Thank you so much for listening, tuning in. If you disagree with anyone's opinions, we know you
Which you
will.
probably did.
Uh, please leave your comments below. Check out the other episodes we have and follow us on social media. We are at Begin on Podcast on Instagram. And thank you guys for listening. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was less heated than I expected, but it was pretty good. So yeah, thank you all, and you'll hear us again very soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.